Hello again, Motor.
Marvin.
Back for part 2 of being jerks and thinking that we're great and anybody cares. But anyway, it's going back to school, telling you about how it came about, and this tune kind of developed. So this is part 2. Part 1 was us just going on and on and on about the demo and how we came up with that. So now we're taking it another step further. The next wave of things was to flush out our ideas from that demo. And we did so. We went over to Joyride Studios in Chicago with our good friend Brian Leach, who engineered everything and played on it too. We'll get to him a little bit later. But I always had this idea. I would leave those initial drums that you hear here that ran through the whole song right here. From my kit right over there, and it's just my old shitty Pearl drum set I've had since I was 10 years old or something. So we had those, and my idea on the chorus is we'd blow it up a little bit. And so I used the live DW kit that was over at Joyride, and I just played like this on top of it, and came back and like got it all edited up together and did some fills, and still pretty tight. No, just to give it a little something different, a little pick me up on the chorus, you know. So blah blah. So enough about drums, but that's what we did in the chorus, and then would come back to on the verse, just back to our original demo drums. And if you remember, we had the acoustic guitar. You'll hear the original. There's the original demo with it. So Marvin went in with a 12-string acoustic at Joyride. And we doubled up a bunch, and then I think you also played, did you play your regular 6-string? I'm not mistaken.
I don't think I played my regular 6-string guitar in the studio.
Right.
And I actually didn't play a 12-string guitar in the studio either. I played an 11-string guitar.
What?
Yeah, I played an 11-string guitar
Wait, what?
at Joyride Studio.
What the?
What don't you get right now?
Ladies and gentlemen, surprises around every corner. In the last episode, we heard he liked Nickelback. And
come on. You like Nickelback too. Everybody liked Nickelback at some point in their
I don't
life.
dog on that. Yeah, I probably do. It's wrong. Me though, I feel bad about it. I feel too judgy.
Wait, you like Nickelback now?
No,
didn't
I
say
don't.
Like
No. Don't
Nickelback.
you try to out me on that, man. Yeah, no. But 11-string guitar?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they didn't have a 12-string guitar at Joyride Studio.
You just had 11.
When I went to go record this part, they had an 11-string guitar though. And I didn't care. I mean, what's the difference?
How
between
cool is that? It's
11-string
guitar.
Really?
So, yeah, man. So I remember you doing that, and we had you do it a couple times, so it was super thick, and because those chords are pretty rich, in and of itself, as you can hear if you just cut the drums, and we go to the verse.
Mm-hmm.
I remember you strumming it, and you also did one where you're really all downstroking, I think, too, on that. So pretty cool. Gave it a lot more edge instead of nice and happy. It was like you also got one in there that was kind of propelled the thing.
And it sounds like we're in a church, or like I'm recording this in a church or something like that, but we weren't in a church or anything like a church.
We were just through the to give it some depth, I threw the L480 here on it.
Which is
this
a
verb.
Yeah.
And
right.
Kind of one of those cool verbs from a while back, and it turned out pretty cool. But.
Yeah, and it looks very old school.
Yeah, I know, man. That's cool, right?
Yeah.
It should be Atari or some shit.
Right.
Yeah, so we had those guys. So that was kind of one of the first things we did when we were there. We did the drums in then. What else did we record there? Oh, I remember. Brian Leach, back to Brian Leach. He did a really cool, we didn't have bass on that.
Mm-mm.
If you hear on the original demo, when I go to it. That right here is just acoustic guitar.
Which sounds fine, but we wanted to have a bass part
cool.
during this section of the song.
Yeah,
To
and while
that
he was
part.
doing right on, and while Marvin was doing some acoustic, Leach just popped in and did a bass line, and the bass line turned out to be
pretty awesome,
really good.
It's really simple but effective at the same time.
Yeah, it had a really nice line to it that I really appreciated, and that's Leach. He can just pull something out of his hat really quickly like that. He's a great producer as well. Yeah. But it was just cool, man. It had to stay, so turned out I ended up playing bass on the choruses because he didn't have that, which is coming up here. And then I blended my bass with the Juno bass of my Juno 106 that I have kind of over there. So it's kind of funny right now, but kind of cuts through a little bit more in the mix. But so there's what we had with all that. So we were building up that. And then that was pretty much what we were. I'm so mistaken because we made Leach do something else. We made him. He had an idea. I don't think we did. I think he had this idea to bring out the EBow, and I think he used his Gibson SG, and then EBowed this guitar track, which I then put tons of effects on, flangers, chorus. Delays, stuff to make it sort of sound like a more of a synth, you know. So, and it comes in midway through in the verse, and it turned out pretty cool. The EBow, who knew? There it is. This was a great line. It's a great line.
Yeah, and he came up with it on the spot.
I know.
Kind of like he did that bass part.
Yeah,
just pull it out of thin air.
Mm-hmm.
Which is really cool. I can't do that. I can't really come up with guitar parts out of thin air like you can.
Bullshit.
No, it's really not. Like, at least not guitar parts that like I want to like keep in like final versions of songs. Like if I come up with a guitar part, sure, like I could come up with something that sounds fine, but I won't be totally satisfied with it. Usually, at least, like I'll just be like, man, like it could be so much better if I change a few things. So, yeah. Like Leach has like this ability that I don't, or where he could just like come up with something that's like good enough to be on a final version of any song.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. He is gifted like that. He's really super gifted. Yeah, I like working with talented people. It makes me a lot better.
Makes your life easier too.
Makes my
Doesn't
shit
it?
sound a lot better too, man. Working with
sure.
people who are super gifted. Yeah, absolutely. Leach was these parts really, to me, add so much to the song. They like lifted that demo. Now the demo doesn't, it sounds like it's coming to life, and sort of like, oh wow, I never would have imagined that. I probably wouldn't have never ever done that. And that's the cool thing about when you start to work with people, and super talented people especially. So we had all that. We brought all that back. We threw it back in my studio, and then we took some time bringing out the Rickenbacker. And that's when you came up with this line here.
Yeah, so I like this line a lot, right? But what actually happened was you sent me like the second demo of this song
Right.
that you kind of like created, right?
Mm-hmm.
After Leach recorded all of his parts. And I remember thinking like, this sounds like a totally different song to me now. You know, like I thought that there was really nothing wrong with the first version of this song, you know? Like the first demo you sent me, I was like, this is perfect. You know, like we don't really have to do anything else guitar wise. I think it's done as far as like, you know, all the guitar parts go for the song. I think it's just about finished. So then I heard the second version of this song and then I was like, oh shoot, you know, like I should probably come up with like a lead guitar part to kind of like start the song off. Or maybe you encouraged me to do that. And I remember trying to record.
Don't think so.
I think you did. I think you were like, if you could like record something, you know, that is like kind of arpeggiated or something like that, you know, that'd be great. And then I tried to come up with something and it wasn't really what you were looking for. So we came back here, both of us met here, and then we recorded something and you kind of like took the idea that I came up with and you kind of like changed a few things about it. So then I was just like kind of like following your directions and it was cool how we were like collaborating, right? Because you didn't like totally change the idea. Yeah, you didn't change the idea 100%, right? Like you kind of kept like the main parts of the idea that I had. But you just, I feel like made it better, you know? Like you just kind of like...
Well, we were in that zone. I remember.
Yeah.
Now. We were in a zone and you were coming, sort of like finding your way with it. And then all of it, like... At certain points, I would sort of hear, oh, maybe if you just go up a step or take it to it, resolve it to this at each little phrase or something, and then you just ran. And the ending, I remember you just, when you were like, oh my, I kept saying, oh my God, yeah, keep climbing. And you just drilled, you crushed it. I mean, it was very little, but it was just this back and forth.
Right.
And I think it took its shape. I don't know what we were really trying to achieve. We were just letting it just sort of go, letting the ideas just kind of be what way. Well, we'll see what we can do with this. And it turned out to be, which we'll find out later, sort of where I based the melody on for the vocal. Totally. But, you know, going back to it as I, you know, sort of, you know, was putting it within the context of the song, I just loved that it was this long intro, sort of like some of my favorite music. Back in the 80s, like The Cure and other people sometimes would have these great, gorgeous melodic guitar melodies, not solos, but like, you know,
just cool lines.
Yeah. And I just always, one of those things that I loved about music. And I thought that'd be really great for us to have it. And it seemed to make sense. Instead of starting off with the chorus right away, start with that guitar intro, you know?
Right. And I think that like the Smiths, Secure, you know, bands that you're heavily influenced by, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Are bands that kind of like use their guitars in this way that's like not like ostentatious, right? Like, I don't know, Metallica or like Guns N' Roses, other 80s bands, right? Like they weren't like trying to show off like how fast of guitar players they were necessarily, or like these cool like licks they could play. They were just trying to like be like very like melodic and like try to create cool harmonies with all their guitar parts, right? I hadn't really listened to The Cure, the Smiths, like those 80s bands that you were heavily influenced by until like after we kind of like recorded a few versions of this song, right? So it was actually a pretty big challenge for me to come up with this guitar part. I remember like being in here for, I don't know, maybe half an hour or so with you and just trying to like, you know, flesh this idea out with you. But you know what, like it was worth like the time and effort.
We did put a lot into it. I remember we came back at that, I think it was that last phrase we kind of redid a couple of times. And I think we ended up, I'm not sure if we ended with the original or if we got somewhere. It's, you know, so many versions get foggy, but we did really flush it out, I think, to its potential, you know, where we were both really happy about it. And that's what I loved about, like, sort of really what I like our dynamic with, like, all my influences that I love to bring out, you take and then you make modern.
Right.
You come at it with a younger perspective and it creates a fresh take on it, which is what I want. You know? I don't necessarily want everything, you know, just to sound like an 80s retread. You know, I wanted to have something about it that's like, well, that's unique or that's something special, you know. Definitely. But I do love letting my influences come out in it and kind of see as a starting point sometimes. So it's really neat, you know. to see how this comes about. And
Definitely.
yeah, it's really cool. But I love that line. And
It's
so-
my favorite line in the
it's
entire
so
record.
good.
Like
I know.
for real, like it's
Yeah.
my favorite line in the
it's
album.
so good. I love it.
Yeah.
We brought it back in this little section here.
And it sounds even better in this section for some reason.
Yeah, the vocals are in, and so it was really pretty much: do we take it out, or do we, keep it in? And I was like, I just don't want to take it out. I love that it comes back out and it hints at what I'm singing, because like I said, I took the melody and I just took this. I based my melody on this, and it's just so I EQ'd it a little different. So it's took out a lot of the upper range. Put a little echo in between with the toy piano. Then leads to the chorus. But I just wanted it to make its appearance again. It was just, some things are just too good to only happen one time. I mean, are you
Right.
kidding me? I needed to kind of come in underneath. So
Yeah.
plus I love Ear Candy. It's stuff that just kind of, you may not notice it when it's there. And if you dig deeper in music and you're listening and you're really intently listening, you hear all these kinds of wonderful little things that are in there. You know?
say you like my candy?
Ear candy.
Oh, ear candy. Okay.
I probably like your candy too if you make some.
I don't
know.
have
It'd probably be good,
any
but,
candy that I make. That's why I was confused.
yeah, no, ear candy, man. Ear
Okay,
candy.
okay.
So yeah, so then that's it. We had the EBOs, we had all this stuff, and what I totally dig is like,
Hearing all of the guitar parts
Yeah.
isolated, right?
yeah, I think we
Yeah.
should try that and see what it's like, because I think it'd be pretty neat to
Sure.
hear. So we have the original guitar choirs that we had from the demo. We have our new acoustics. And I think where I'll take it from is maybe, let's see, a good spot. Maybe I'll take it from the chorus here. And then we'll, I forgot about those guitars. Do you remember
Yeah,
those?
me too. I do. I think I recorded them with my Gibson and
the
the Rickenbacker.
Rickenbacker. The same sort of like what we did for the solo guitars.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember running them through a Fender Twin and a Roland Juno, or not Roland Juno, Roland amp.
Right.
The name of it. Those chords were what we did here, and they were pretty sweet. You can hear them clean, those really nice, rich chords.
Yeah, and I think you wanted me to play something like what the guitar player in your other band would play, Brian Crum, right?
Mhm.
So I think you wanted me
I
to
did.
kind
I
of
love-
like
I call
play
him
something.
Crummies.
Yeah, play something in his
Uh-huh.
style, right?
Yeah.
And he likes to like play these chords, right, that are
Mhm.
very lush and bright sounding, right? So I was like, okay, sure. Like, why don't I just play like the first chord in each like different? So we have a chord progression for this section, right?
Mhm.
So I guess I was just like,
Yeah.
okay, I'll just play like the first chord of each different chord in that chord
Yeah.
progression. If that makes any
Exactly.
sense. Yeah. And this took like, I don't know, just a few minutes to kind of like get on.
But I love the tone, and I remember like, okay, we'll do Crummies, Brian
Mhm.
Crum. I call him Crummies because we needed a name for him because I always use them all the time. I love them, but I wanted them like that kind of Smith sound, so we used a lot of the amps that they did, and that some of the tone and the richness of those amps together, and
Right.
spread them out, and it just made this nice.
Also, I feel like I should say, like, it was at this point when we were recording, like, these chords where I had no idea where we were going with this song. You know, like, at that point, I was just like, okay, like, I thought that we had something, right, that was, like, already, like, in good shape. Like, I thought we had something that could have been final, and then we were adding all these parts, and then we added these chords, and I mean, I guess like they sounded fine, right? But I was still just like, okay, now I don't know what we're doing here. I don't know where this song is going, but I trust in Motor. And you know what? Like, it doesn't sound bad.
Don't ever do that, man.
I've been doing it for
that's true. That's
like
right.
my whole life.
Yeah, there you go. And the other thing I heard too when we were listening back, we did this arpeggio, and you came up with it. I think it was really cool. You'll hear it.
Right.
Get ebows out.
Mm-hmm. There it is.
On the 12 string with stereo, you played it twice, and we just made a loop of it.
Right. So this was another guitar part that was very hard for me to come up with. I forgot like what you asked me to do before I started playing this. I think it might have been like something like where it was like you were asking me to play just a part that we could like repeat throughout like a section of the song, right? But I was thinking to myself, okay, well, there are so many chord changes in this section of the song, you know, how am I going to find something that like can harmonize with all of those changes? We had no idea
what the structure, the chord progression really sort of was in there. It was all over the place. The bass does a crazy line, and it's just kind of like, let's just make this beautiful wash.
Right, but you know what? I was thinking of the song Mr. Brightside by The Killers and how they have that one riff that kind of like repeats throughout like the first two sections of the song, you know, like it's in the intro and then it's in the verse, right? So I try to play something that kind of sounded similar to that riff.
I see, here it is. I can hear a little bit of that resemblance now that you mention it.
Yeah, I borrowed like some of the same notes from that riff, believe it or not.
And I remember just putting it in through the whole time. Like, it works with everything. Like, it just works in there throughout. And then with the 12 string, kind of gives you almost like a little feeling of The Cure and Friday I'm in Love or something. And
yeah, with all the other parts going on at the same time. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so... Here's that chorus again. Back to the verse.
Yeah. Back to that riff, though, for just a second longer. I think that riff is a lot of people's favorite part of this song. The reason why I say that is because when I showed like maybe version 4 of this song to a few friends, you know, they didn't like say anything like after like that one riff that is my favorite riff, you know, like played. You know, like they
bastards.
Yeah, I was upset. I was like, really, like,
defriended
you guys
them
don't
immediately,
have
right?
like any reaction to this like amazing thing that I made. They were just like, what, like indifferent to it, right? But then you know, this section of the song started, or whenever this section of the song would play, and you know, I'd be showing my friends this demo that we had at the time. You know, they'd be like, "Oh man, this is great." You know, I was like. Really?
Yeah, but what with that kick-ass?
But what about that one other
solo?
part?
Yeah.
You don't like it. You don't like that other part either, just as much or maybe even more. No, like you know, it's whatever. It's whatever. Like as long as they like the song, you know, or as long as they liked the song, I was like cool with it at the end of the day. Right. But no, yeah, I mean, I think that just because like. It's a part that repeats over and over again, you know, and happens like over these chord changes. Yeah. Even if you don't know much about music and like harmony and things like that, I think you could still appreciate that part and kind of like understand that, okay, there's something interesting going on here.
Yeah, I agree. It was fun to mix it, like mix those choruses. Each chorus I tried to mix one of those, like the ebow up a little bit louder, your guitar arpeggio up a little bit louder on the second chorus. So you get a chance to fully hear it, you know what I'm saying? Like, so some things you get to hear in one chorus a little bit more than you would in the other, and so maybe have it build a little bit more. I mean that's all that amazing stuff, but it just sounds so beautiful, like all together when it's there in the choruses. It just kind of was like this flower sort of blooming, and
Right.
it's in its all its glory on those choruses. That's So.
Yeah, I hope we're not sounding too pretentious right
Oh,
now.
we're totally sounding like a bunch
Yeah,
of douchebags
right.
right now. Yeah, we're totally
we totally-
pretentious. Yeah, of course, and we're just gonna probably keep sounding pretentious, but yeah, so
Who gives a
be
shit?
it. So be it. Self-indulgent musicians who think they're God's gift. Yeah, that's me pretty much.
And me.
In a nutshell. Yeah, for sure. So, I work with you because you're amazing, and I get to take all these wonderful kick-ass ideas, and Brian Leach and Brian Crome, which I'll get to, and my mate Brian Hunt, who also contributes and helps out on so many things, bass and amazing artists and guidance. He's amazing. So we have to go into touch on. We had all this done. I had the song almost mixed, and I realized that I didn't have cello on it. I need a fucking
I can't
cello
believe
on
you
it.
had that thought.
I did. I don't have cello on this, and I say that because, my brother, not my real brother, but my brother is Jake Brookman. He lives in St. Louis, and just amazing cellist. And
Nice guy too.
Jake's amazing. He's
Yeah.
an absolutely superhuman being. He's about one of the nicest dudes you're gonna meet, and I'm lucky to count him as a friend, and really good friend. Played cello in the Suede Chain. That's when we first met, and we did. We worked together then, and so ever since been really good friends. And I call him to do anything. I need cello on strings. I need string overdubs, and he's always does it. So he's played on everything that we've done. I have, I'm always sending him parts or letting him come up with something. And when he comes up and visits, so I'm like, oh, shit, I gotta have Jake on this. He's got to play on it,
And what was Jake's reaction after you asked him to play on this song that you wrote? I'm curious.
He said, "If you say so."
Oh man,
That was his text back.
I
Like, if you say
feel
so.
shocked in any way. Yeah, he's such a quiet dude,
Yeah,
but he's so like cool.
Yeah,
and,
he
like,
probably's like, this song
easy to get
sucks.
along with.
But he
Maybe.
he like he did it, man. He played on it, and it's just so cool. And so I just send him the part, and what he does, he records at home, and then he'll send it back to me, and then I just insert, and it's great. It's usually what happens a lot. But Jay's cool. So I had it hit me that on the break, on the last verse, we do a shortened verse, and it gets a little more introspective. I think the lyrics unveil themselves a little bit more at this point.
Yeah.
I thought there's the spot. And then on the last chorus and then the outro, if we just let him like really add another layer to that beautiful flower we're creating on the chorus, I mean, let it just go,
So he's only in a small section of this song.
Right. So he comes in on the third verse and then throughout.
Mhm.
And what I'll do is I'll play what he did. So.
Did you write this part for Jake? Or did you write? Okay. And you had experience writing string parts
Right.
before you wrote Jake's string parts for the song. You did that for Suede Chain, didn't you?
Right. Just wanted something to soar through there that just kept going. So, like, if you hear this, it's with everything in it here. Not everything. Actually, let me just put it with the first. So it just, man, to me, it takes it. It's special, you know.
Mhm.
And Jake's special. It's when you have all that special and you have that like, I don't know, sort of camaraderie coming in your music, and it just makes it super great. So pretty cool. And the only other thing I added in here was I added this Alesis drum machine kit that just kind of comes in and gives us, you can sort of hear it on this part with Jake. It's on the last verse. And so, oh yeah. Hey, Ava, come on in. You can be in our video. What's going on?
Not much. My mouth is feeling better.
Yeah.
And so Lauren invited me. Oh, wait, where is it?
That's it. Yeah, that's right there.
Lauren invited me over to her house,
Right on.
so I'm gonna get ready to go.
Okay. You tell Mom. Mom's the boss.
I'll call her.
All right. So this old 80s Alesis drum machine kind of taking over on this part. Just something a little different too,
Yeah, I like it.
along with that sort of gated reverb delay thing on it. Runs through the song. So tons of music stuff in there, you know, tons of instrumentation. But I love that about music. I love all the little things that were woven in, even if it's just on a little part, you know, toy piano kind of sneaking in between vocal lines or whatever. It's just, yeah, I dig all that kind of stuff. Some people may hate it. I don't know. It's just,
I don't see why anybody would hate it.
Seems to be like, it's
Look at how
something
many
that-
tracks we have, though.
Yeah, there's quite a bit. I don't even know. I would guess about 70.
Jeez.
Maybe there, you know, doublings and stuff like that. So, well, thanks for indulging us with version 2. For round 2 of our display of, you know, how we put this masterpiece.
Total.
Yeah, man, total. It's a
Timeless work
white
of
album.
art.
It's whatever it is, you know, piece of whatever. We put it together, and I hope you're digging it. But in the next one, we're gonna talk about vocals. We'll have Brian Crum on here. Somehow we'll get him. Busy man, and he helped shape all the lyrics and stuff. So, and we'll talk about how I put the vocals together, and with Marvin, and we'll hit that. Be the last piece of the puzzle, and that's that, man. All right.